Welcome back to HFO Multifamily Marketwatch, your trusted source for information for apartment owners and investors. Multifamily Marketwatch is presented by Pacific Exteriors Northwest, a contractor specializing in siding and exterior envelopes and delivering exceptional quality and service for over 30 years. And by Gantry Incorporated, the nation's largest independent mortgage banking firm.
Welcome back to Multifamily Market Watch. I'm Greg Frick, partner with HFO Investment Real Estate. And today we have back with us Noel Johnson. Noel, I've known you, I think, for about 20, 25 years in this space. Yeah. And maybe you can give a little bit of your background. That we're going to talk a little bit about mass timber, but I've known you back when you were on the development side. Yeah. And so thanks for taking the time to come share some insight. Give a little bit about your background, how you got into real estate and kind of where it's evolved to.
Sure, yeah. It's great to be here. And it's cool that you guys do these programs just to kind of spread the information. Right. And I'm happy to, with mass timber, be of help because it's pretty exciting and something I'm passionate about, but working on for 10 plus years now. But going back before that, started at Trammell Crow Residential over 20 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
We've been in the business a long time.
I know, right. I'm older.
We're not the young people anymore.
Isn't it bad? I know. I'm older than I like to think.
I know.
But the notion to me is just trying to find incrementally better ways to create a new real asset, right? Like a real estate developer, I think, at the best level is trying to figure out some dual mandates of like, what does society need and that are good financial returns, but also good for society.
Right. And how does it fit both those boxes?
Yeah, right. And that's the obligation of the developer. For me, I give a huge amount of credit to growing up within the Trammell Crow system that kind of took, from an institutional investment standpoint, the fiduciary duties very seriously.
Right.
But at the same time, building, we were just talking about high quality assets, right, that are going to serve not just society with housing over 100 plus years, but also the retirees, the insurance funds that really have their savings stored, right?
In these assets.
Right. These assets, like, the evil investors, turns out it's just our parents. And we want to do well for them. Right?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because everybody talks about the institutional. Like, do you know who that is? Do you actually, if you boil it down, who the actual owner is? It's your next door neighbor. It's your parents. That's the owner of these assets.
It is. Yeah. And that's what we teach in my behavioral finance class up at Lewis and Clark as well. And I think that there's a hope note with students. The students are savvy to this. And so they have that ability to have like a dual mindset and to rise to the occasion. And mass timber is a pretty neat opportunity within development to have some of the positive social externalities, and we can go through what they are, but also have a differentiated asset that will serve investors very well. So the occupant inside it is benefited, and the investor who owns it is benefited, and actually maybe a third, end user is the political side, who, especially here regionally,
especially in Northwest,
right?
Yes,
And so the politics of mass timber is also an important aspect we can explore.
Join the HFO community and get weekly multifamily intel. Click to subscribe.
So into talking about that, I mean, when you hear mass timber, you hear it, they're going to build the largest mass timber building, or what really is it? I mean, how would you explain to somebody who has no idea?
Yeah. So mass timber, I guess you could say, is a couple things. On some levels, it's just using wood instead of steel or concrete. The world has so far invented only 3 options for structural solutions. Maybe carbon fiber in the airplanes and stuff, but really we're building buildings out of 3 options.
Right.
And so mass timber specifically is a product that both maybe enables larger scale and or higher complexities out of wood, when normally a structural engineer would go with steel or something like that. And so it's kind of simple. It's a product. It's not anything more than that. Sometimes it's supposed to be the next second coming, but it's not. That being said, it is also an investment theme. Mass timber, in that it goes back into the investment theme from maybe an ESG mandate that we'll have often a little bit less out of the United States these days, but for sure out of Europe and out of most Asian sovereigns and the large pension funds. So those capital flows on the ESG, environmental, social, governance side,
see some component of that.
It's very much right in line with that thematic investment. So beyond just being a product, it's also a thematic investment element.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a multifaceted thing, but really it's wood.
It's wood, just used in a different way. Or use wood replacing steel.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Now, did it start here? I mean, or was it more in, was it Europe using it first? Or how did it evolve?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because the use of large pieces of timber started everywhere, right? Thousands of years ago.
Trees.
One of my favorite realizations was learning that, if you're ever in Shanghai and the old colonial historic buildings that were built hundreds of years ago, they're sitting on Oregon dug fir foundational pile that was pounded into the mud of the river, right? So Oregon wood, as an example, has been the foundation, literally, at a global level forever. Now, we are no longer, and one thing that's a good clarification, we are no longer using old growth giant trees. Right. This is engineered, small diameter, sort of sustainably grown, managed, harvested wood that is assembled into large glue-lam beams or cross-laminated timber panels.
So it's not the single piece of, right.
That's right. And there's good reasons to not be doing that. But there's also very good reasons to be utilizing the natural resource that is our forests.
Right.
And so mass timber is in its modern incarnation, maybe 20, 25 years old. I think it's probably fair to give the Austrians most credit for commercializing some of the early research. They've got phenomenal, fast forward today, phenomenal factories. If you go there, there's a 2-mile-long glue-lam plant that you can eat off the floor, and it's quiet, and it's just producing perfectly customized structural elements at a made-to-order level. The American industry is catching up and catching up well. And so there's a lot of excitement there in terms of how, from a national security standpoint, for independence with materials, or from an economic revitalization standpoint, there's a lot of national level implications for the industry.
And do you see it, the adoption within the United States? Is it coastal first and not, is it where, they're growing, like I said, Pacific Northwest is a natural place with just the timber industry. What do you see from an adoption standpoint?
So the adoption is not what we would probably expect or think from the stereotypes, which is actually why I am intrigued by it, right? So Milwaukee has the tallest tower that has been created. Milwaukee also has a number of other mass timber buildings. Why? Because you had some interesting developers trying new things there.
So it's more developer-specific that wanted to... Right.
People ask me, why is Portland such a hotbed of mass timber developments that actually have been built? I think it's just the high quality of the architectural engineering development community, along with the contractors that sort of have a willingness and a proper mindset to say, let's give it a shot.
So it's not so much the municipality or the state saying, we're going to push this through, we're going to push this through.
No, I do not think so. And that's probably where I'm orthogonal to a lot of the talking points that you'd hear. I think some of building code officials, for example, Terry, the old City of Portland building code official, gets great credit. He's good. Today, not so much. And then we can talk about that. But really, I don't think it's up to the sort of code reform or policy or regulatory side. It's up to the mindsets of the project teams trying to do something better.
And as it's, this industry has developed here, within the United States, costs have gotten more competitive.
Yes.
Usually the early adopters got it's a cost thing there. Is that kind of normalizing or getting more in line?
Yeah, it's a great question. So maybe it's helpful to say we are still very, very early days. Right. And so we can point to this great group out there called Woodworks that chronicles the number of mass timber buildings that are out there. It's in the thousands now within the United States. Great news. But when you think about it, in the fact that the United States economy, a $30 trillion economy, about $2 trillion per year is the building segment. So like a couple thousand buildings is like a trickle in the Columbia River.
Right, it's not,
Yeah. And so there's good news in that, yes, we have proven a lot of you can do it, right? And we've proven it from Texas to Milwaukee to the East Coast to the West Coast, everywhere. And we've also seen some indications on the demand side, like how does the consumer behavior?
Right.
We can get into that. But in truth, it's still very early days. Yeah.
Is climate have any effect on where we're? Is it better, better Milwaukee than it would be in Houston or something like that? Or is it too kind of early to tell, where they're from a longevity standpoint?
Sure. With the specific application of and building of it with it? No, is the super short answer.
Okay.
So we've got great examples that I've visited in Singapore, the most tropical, humid, hot climate you can find. In Norway.
So you've got full extremes there.
Yeah. North, south. So it is always the case that building sciences are applicable. What are your assemblies for water? What are your assemblies for fire, for heat, for HVAC? But that is true whether it's concrete, steel, or wood. My joke is that there is no shortage of ways to screw it up when you're developing a new building. And whether you're using wood or steel or anything, it's
gonna
equal
be-
folly. You just
Right.
have the right team with the right mindset that sweat the details to get it right.
So locally here, so to speak, has it come more on is it the residential side? Has it been more the commercial side? I mean, where do you see the early adoption and
Yeah.
where do you see it going?
I think initially we saw, let's go back maybe 10 years, earlier opportunities coming out of the office sector. So market rate, office sector, and maybe some institutional non-market actors like foundations, groups.
Following kind of like the whole LEED environment, when they was because I remember when LEED came on the environmental doing these projects. Okay, we're going to do a multifamily, we're going to do an office, and it fit a little bit of multifamily, but there's cost. There was issues with cost and what tenants would pay for. But an office is a different beast.
Yeah. Yes, and there's features that mass timber, for example, might uniquely resonate with. So we saw a lot of, the 3 office buildings I've done with mass timber. They typically were appealing to a younger sort of millennial, maybe a fintech or a something tech type of office.
Gotcha.
Right? They wanted some of the charm of a brick and timber office building, but they wanted fast internet and comfortable HVAC.
Right. So you got
You know what I mean?
Right.
And we've all been in the beautiful but leaky and very cold to be in old office.
The adaptive reuse building that
Right.
you're like, okay, yes.
Right. And so for me, how I personally came to mass timber was essentially coming out of business school at Stanford. They teach you to innovate and to solve those problems, right? And so the problem was you have a market that wants a brick and timber old adaptive reuse.
Right.
Give them that. Give them all that they want, the features of it, but in a new modern building.
With the modern amenities and the modern,
Yeah, that's a good asset to own for 100 plus years. And so mass timber was a tool to answer that market's desire, right? And sometimes I think whether it's mass timber or anything, we make mistakes when we flip that, where we try and force an answer that's not really wanted by the market. So you saw the office segment wanting that. Let's call it 2012, 2014, 2016. More recently, I think we have seen the multifamily, or just more specifically, broadly, the residential market being interested in it. In part, we might say because we've got 30-something-year-olds having families, unable to move into a home. They're in a multifamily sort of lifestyle and context. And so they're saying, well, I do have a health and well-being value within me, and living within the sort of the biophilic nature, like the wood, it resonates with me, right? And I'll opt in and spend a couple $100 more for that. I think we're seeing more of that on the residential side. And so I expect mass timber will more and more be a tool for answering those questions.
And is it on the design side and the residential side specifically? I mean, what elements does it also bring other than just that? Is there, is it more better from a heat retention or things like that? I mean, what are some of those things differentiate itself from steel or the old traditional kind of construction?
The academic answer is we don't know yet.
Okay.
We have not done the revealed preference comparative survey type work. I'm working on some of that actually right now on the academic side of my life. But the short answers are that there's probably 20 to 25 different attributes that mass timber may be comparatively more capable or interesting or of value. So yes, there's a biophilic. Yes, people just think it looks beautiful.
Well, I was going to say aesthetically,
right?
there's
It's
just a look to it, yes.
When they walk in, interestingly, to the mass timber townhomes that I built in Northwest Portland, the first reaction almost for everyone is how wonderfully it smells.
Really? Oh, interesting.
They're in the forest again.
Right.
And so when you're coming home and you're looking, you're relaxing, you're at a safe spot. Homes are about safety and security. That is an amazing, reduction of a stress moment.
Yeah.
People remember that.
And warmer. And it's warm. I mean, not warm temperature. I mean, it just feels
right.
Yes.
Right. And so there's reactions to taking the plastics out of one's environment or other materials that are maybe less natural and putting a wool or a wood, from a carpet and or your structure into your life. That's totally separate from someone who might have the virtues of a made in America forest health, forest like rural revitalization, and they want to bring sort of some of their urban living and their ethics that they value the rural areas, but like how do you do that? Right. Mass timber is a manifestation of how like urban and rural can connect economically.
Right, put them together.
Pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
so there's a whole myriad of things. Those are just some of the fun ones, but.
And now are we seeing, so it is getting more adopted or more and more. How's it evolved from where it was, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Is it, the product's getting better, they're, stronger, lasting longer, they'll be able to now, you probably have more designers that are familiar with it, architects who know how to work with it better. Is that kind of the case?
Yeah, that's totally the case. And I would maybe characterize that as the supply side has really matured.
Okay.
So, Portland actually has great architects, Thomas Robinson with Lever Architecture and a few other. I mean, it's wonderful. Same with structural engineering.
So we've got the institutional knowledge here.
It's one of our amazing resources sort of the Portland, whatever we have going for us. Like we certainly do have that smarts, that A&E capability, which is very much being exported right now. That's a bright spot for our company.
Definitely.
Yeah. But even more broadly, on the supply side, we've had the good fortune from forestry to academic research that has really solved a lot of like the technical assemblies of how do you do it and how do you do it right.
Okay.
And that goes to Oregon State, Tallwood Institute, lab type work, and there's other labs out of University of Arkansas, out of University of British Columbia. This has been a global project. We have had great code update work with me giving grief to the code officials before, but in truth, we've had great work from
it's probably them
the
just not
IBC.
even understanding it, and now they've got to, on the code side, kind of figure out,
Yep. So that's been phenomenal 10 years of work happening. Like what is the tangible product? How do we develop it? How do we make sure it's safe? What do we know its characteristics are? The next work ahead of us, sort of the in the trenches fight right now, is that we have not paid attention to the pro forma side. Surprise, surprise, the money side of the coin.
That's what I asked you about,
Yeah, right. And so as an example, a lot of the mass timber examples of the last 3, 4, 5 years that are cited are all non-market activities, right? So it would be in affordable housing.
Okay.
Great. We have, it's important. I think it's a proper choice for all the reasons that are separate from this to be investing in great affordable housing, utilizing mass timber. But that is not a market indicator, right? If we're building it at 60, 70% higher than market rate. And so what we have an opportunity now to do is to translate our technologies into an underwritable science.
Okay.
Right? So what does the differentiation of an asset do for its occupancies over a 10-year hold? Right? Because if you and I are sitting here 10 years from now looking to sell a mass timber asset and you're like, look, this thing just stays full.
Right.
That's going to help
the
the cap
tangible
rate,
benefits that
right?
we've got. Right.
So studying the volatilities of cash flows. Do we know if it is having both not just higher rents, but a broader market appeal? Because we've seen how market preferences shift, right? And COVID has taught us anything that we've got to be flexible about what our assets are.
Exactly.
Right? And these assets can't pick up and move.
Right.
So we need to have them be a broader market appeal. The cool thing about mass timber is that if you love Trump or Biden, it's for you.
Yeah,
right. And that's a pretty unique type of product or type of building appeal. And so there's some market insurance against that. What's that worth? Right. And we do have the academic techniques, but we to date have not had our business schools, our entrepreneurship centers, our finance departments engage in the way that our engineering or forestry or architecture schools have.
And I was going to say, is that architectural, you think, pushing that to, kind of showing the developer that, hey, here's another option. You don't have to just go back to the same, kind of design, not say design, but the same kind of look and feel. It's just, and then being able to show tangible, this is where the benefits are.
It's a great question. I don't know. Yeah, I've not been asked that before. And it's maybe too early to really know.
Right.
I still have always thought, I've been doing this for a couple of decades now, why do some development projects end up just a notch above than others? Mm-hmm. And you can look at the people involved in the teams and I can't figure it out. So let me know when you got to figure it out.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, because you just look at the people. Is it the team? Is it just the point in time with that team at that step? It's just a weird how it goes to this direction. Yeah. So
and I've failed many times too. So I personally wonder, right, when I'm working on projects and I'm like, man, this is just not working, and it's the same team or it's people I love and I respect. Other times we're hitting it out of the park. Right. And so I think part of it is just stepping up, keeping on trying, and that tenacity and the grit that is maybe one of the best hallmarks of Oregonians or people, the Pacific Northwest. I think that has proven to get more mass timber deals over the finish line, and that might be an answer.
Well, and I think it appeals to, this location. I think that we're always wanting to be an early adopter, and not say we're early now. I mean, this has been immature. It's gone. It's just how do we you know, kind of make that pie bigger in terms of the development side.
Right, and I mean, I love exploring this with you because I don't really know if I believe what I'm saying, but you know, you'd think, okay, Oregonians, Portland, living in wherever, the Pacific Northwest, the Northwest neighborhood, these are people that are going to absolutely love all of these attributes of mass timber. But will they pay for it?
Well, that's of course, that's
right.
Yeah. Well, that's what came with LEED certified buildings back on the apartment side.
We've debated this for years.
Yeah, so
right?
we're going to do LEED certified apartments, but is that going to market when you say to somebody your rent's going to be high? Or the other thing we always had the issue with was your utilities are going to be lower.
Right.
But I'm not paying the utilities, the tenant's paying the utilities.
Right.
The owner, so you know, they're going to believe that I'm saying this.
Right.
We used to say the utilities companies, we don't have as great of adoption because the owner's not paying the electric. If there's a way we could show and say, hey, look, here it is, but that's a hard thing to put in an ad.
Right.
With my rent's here and the other guy's rent's below, but I'm trying to say your utilities are going to be less by 50%.
Right.
Is that going to resonate?
And so to me, a lot of it is not on the return side, but it's on the risk side.
Right.
So for example, I think going forward, the regulatory risk is real. So New York City's maybe out in front of most, but certainly every state in the West Coast have regulations that are tracking and will be increasingly taxing the consumption of energy, which is to say negative externalities, economically, broadly speaking. So if you're looking at an asset that is clearly a decade plus hold and you need to be able to sell it to someone else who's looking at a decade plus hold, you're looking long term.
Yes.
And so what's your risk of holding this asset versus a traditional asset? And you probably have, regulatory mitigation in the form of the positive social externalities that mass timber delivers you.
Right.
And so if, for example, you can clearly, tangibly know how you are pickling carbon. You have taken carbon out of the air and it is in the form of your structure, right? If it's a concrete building, you have created carbon.
It's the other way.
It's literally the other way.
Right.
And so risk reductions is one example. A different one is if you're in the big city, New York, San Francisco, the same Oregonian who might value that here, they're living there working some job. They might desperately value that biophilic experience going home when they're in the middle of a concrete jungle that is New York City's Manhattan.
Right.
Right. And so that might be where actually we find inordinate value to be unlocked through mass timber, through Oregon's
But then
forests.
as we talked about, as this goes on, the cost side, the delta is getting tighter and tighter.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. So that's a debate. So I always say it's not about the cost, it's about the return.
Right.
Right? No investor asks me like, hey, is this a good cost investment? They always say, what's the return
on this investment?
Right? And
if
then
I'm going
how
to
are
put
we
this
getting
much
there?
in, what am I going to get out of it?
Right. The analogy would be no one's comparing a Toyota Corolla with a Tesla Model S Plaid. Right? They're different cars. They'll both get you there. 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Right? And so when we start looking at a mass timber versus a commodity type apartment unit, it's night and day.
Right.
You just walk in, you smell it, you feel
Different
it.
feel.
And so there should be some level of cost and or resultant, or like the numbers are different, right? NOI over cost equals return, or NOI relative to our cap rates creating value.
Exactly.
The numbers are different. That being said, I think it was published 2 years ago with Woodworks, the only sort of multi-building case study looking at the pro formas of these built examples, these market rate built examples. I think we are seeing plus or minus 5% on costs.
Okay. Wow.
You know, so it's not huge, but it might be something.
Right.
So you got to think, is the right market product market fit given a cost 5% premium type thing? Yeah.
And then this was come up a lot in our world has insurance and coverage, do they understand that, or is it a learning curve for them? Are they looking at it differently than a standard steel project? Well, hey, we don't understand this, so we've got to look at different coverage. Or how is it even mature enough that we haven't gone there yet?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. The responses are, first, did you even in your initial pro forma stick an informed number?
Right.
Insurance rates are going up everywhere.
I know exactly.
You know what I mean?
Trust me, we know.
So half that time, they stuck like $1 in there, and I'm like, okay. It's not the mass timber.
Property taxes with developers. Like, okay, you really think that's going to be the property tax amount? Okay.
Right. So that's 50% of the issues that we hear about. But the insurance industry, I have been surprisingly pleased with how sort of sober and technically they've approached the question, and they can rate your buildings specifically.
Okay.
So there are some uses of mass timber that, I can see why it's higher risk. The ones I've had, they're maybe a little bit higher because it is unknown. But it is a 0.1%
Such a
across the
small-
overall
right.
thing. It's not the reason the deal pencils or doesn't pencil.
Right. And it's all new construction. It's not like it's an older project. Yeah. So we're
Right.
dealing with so. Well,
Yep.
thanks again for
Yeah.
taking the time to do this. I think it's been very informative. Again, I think people hear
Yeah.
mass timber, but they really don't understand, what it is and how long it's actually been around. So
Yeah.
I think sharing this has been great.
It's
so.
great to talk about it because, like, for our region, I'm really excited about how and where it might take it, right? Our revitalization of our rural valleys and connections to the urban economies and the vibrancies that we see there. I think that's something that, like, at a generational level.
Well, I have another thing
is
for
of
this region to
importance.
be, we're not just, sportswear. This is another
Yeah.
kind of industry that we can
Yeah.
be a leader on.
That's right.
And hopefully, import talent and do things like that. So
Yeah.
definitely.
So thanks for taking
All
time
right,
to talk
definitely.
about it.
Thanks again. We'll
Alrighty.
see you next time on Multifamily Market Watch.
Our entire office specializes in multifamily real estate, making HFO the largest multifamily brokerage in the Pacific Northwest. Your success is our passion. Build your legacy with HFO. Call 503-241-5541 or visit our website at hfore.com for more information. HFO is a member of Global Real Estate Advisors. Learn more at grea.com.
Love the insights? Tap the like button and click subscribe. It helps us bring more multifamily news straight to you.